Before we get started, anyone interested in ordering Mr. Lindell's 4-CD set, go to metaphysicalarttheater.com. For those in the U.S., you can order physical copies or the digital downloads. For those outside the U.S., you can order the digital downloads by going to metaphysicalarttheater.com.
How you doing, sir?
Oh, just fine. And you?
I'm doing great. Today's topic, we're going to be talking about not to judge according to appearance. But before we get into that, you were talking about the importance of having the right mindset. Is that correct?
Yes. In other words, let's get clear on this. This was from a private interview, but as you think you are, and be aware, because we're always being delivered into our own iniquities. You understand? You're always being delivered into what you're saying, rather it be good, bad, or indifferent. So that's something we want to really be clear on. I mean, that's what it is, isn't it?
It is. It is. And I think that not enough of us take inventory of what it is that we give our attention to, because as we're going to discuss today, it's going to manifest an action, a lifestyle. Would you agree?
That's right. That's right. And you're given choose this day. And it is always this day. So you are choosing because you're told you're praying ceaselessly, and that in Scripture is saying your say. What are you saying with your valid say? That's all you have to ask yourself, and then just be honest with yourself what you're actually saying, and then approve of it or drop it. Wouldn't you say?
I would. You know, and the thing is, you said a word, and I think that most of us truly don't take inventory, and we're not honest with ourselves. We believe that we're thinking lovely and of good report, but lifestyle says otherwise. Would you agree?
That's right. That's right. If you want to know what you've been talking about, just look at your world at the moment, because that's what it is. You're always thinking ahead of your evidence. So if you want to know what you've been thinking, just look at what you're doing now. And if you don't like what you're doing now, then change your mind, change your world. And the first does the second, right?
It surely does. You know, it absolutely does. You know, and the world is what we often get caught up into, but we're told not to judge according to appearance. Is that correct?
That's right. And we do exactly that. You know, we're told to be in the world, but not to be of the world. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't enjoy it to the nth degree. But what it means is don't get caught up in a system of thoughts that are not beneficial to you. Isn't that right?
It's true. Because, of course, that system of thought is going to turn into a system of action, and that system of action is going to turn into a lifestyle. Would you agree?
Everything was first an idea. I have 1,000 articles in here of one nature or another, and all of them have one thing in common. They were first only an idea in the mind of man, and now they're a product, right, sitting on the desk in front of me. But that's what you're doing. You're thinking ahead of your evidence. So if you're choosing what you're thinking ahead of your evidence, then you know where you're going, what you're doing, and what you'll have for it. Because it's always your thinking feelingly that is your world of experiencing. Isn't that so?
It is. You know, and, you know, I love, and I want to go back just a few pauses back when you said, you know, everything starts off as ideal. So anything that you see within your office, your workspace, your home, it started off as an ideal. Now, it didn't magically manifest itself from ideal into the material realm. Somebody took viable actions to make those products. Would you agree?
Yes, that's it. You know, the person who thought it up may not be the person who produces it. You know, it's just like you see on the movies. There's always the directors and all the other people. It takes a lot of people to get something there, but it still had to start with a single idea.
Absolutely.
And that's where everyone starts, with a single idea. So there's a choice, because you can choose the next thought that you're going to think. And if you don't stop choosing, then you're free. Isn't that right?
It is true, and it's right. So as we're talking about freedom, freedom starts, of course, with a liberated thought. You can't continue to think old negative thoughts that have kept you bound and find yourself liberated. And I think that a lot of people think that they can still think error, and somehow along the way, error is going to turn into something that's positive, and that's an impossibility. Would you agree?
Yes. The thing of it is that actually everyone is responsible for what they're saying, because it's praying. Every word you speak is taken into culmination to make up your world of experiencing. So you're calling forth your future every moment by moment. What are you calling forth? Are you thinking on things that are lovely and a good report? Fine. Expand on it. But if it's not, then drop it. It's that simple. Turn around. You turn to me, I'll turn to you, God says. It's an invitation. He's already said he'll turn to you if you turn to him. So he's already said yes. And as a matter of fact, it's all on automatic. And he's already said yes. So as you think, you are. It's as simple as that, isn't it?
It is that simple, and I actually appreciate the simplicity of the message. I've seen people's lives literally transformed. I've seen people who were in depression begin to find themselves thinking different thoughts, choosing differently, and not always finding themselves in what we would call chronic depression. I've seen people in other situations who simply begun to change their thoughts. But the key element was they began to believe, in listening to our talks, they had an option to choose and think differently. Would you agree?
Yes, that, and the fact that you have to have a desire. You have to have a desire to do something. If you don't desire to do it, then you won't do it. So if you're looking for the how of desired change, it is already with you. All you have to do is activate it. And you activate it by thinking from what it is you desire, not of it. Thinking of it is you're just confirming that you don't have it. And people go to pray, they start right off being in the wrong mood to pray, because they're going there to make a deal or beg or something for something that they really feel they need, but you're already told that everything you need is already right with you. You just have to recognize it. That's all there is to it, is recognizing it. I suffer with you, God says, but you behold me not. You don't recognize it. Look, you're not allowing yourself to take credit for the things that you have accomplished. And I'm sure that you have a lot of accomplishments in your years of experiencing. But you have to take credit for it to build your own confidence. Because, man's faith in God is measured by his confidence in himself. That was William Blake, and I read that in Neville's book, and it's really humbling, isn't it?
It is. I like that you stated about building upon previous successes in order to look at your achievements of the past. And the truth of the matter, some people would say, well, I don't have any prior successes. If you're waking up and getting out of bed, you have something that you can boast about, something that you can look back on and know that you were a success. Would you agree?
Absolutely. Everybody has many successes. They also have many failures, and that's what we're doing. We're building on our on our good actions, and we're dropping the bad actions, and that's all there is to it. And like you said, it'll always pop up here and there. But if you've denied it, and you continue to deny it, and not let it get your attention, even for seconds at a time, they'll eventually just wane away because you're not feeding them. See, it's just like the cat I talked about that the girl fed, and now it's been her friend for life because she keeps feeding it, it stays. And that's the same thing with your negative ideas. As long as you're feeding him your attention, they'll be there, and that's ego. And he's looking for ways to enter into your world of experiencing. Don't let him, because he's always there, always feeling after a new angle to get hold of your attention. Your attention is your life. What are you paying attention to? That's the question you ask yourself. I ask myself that many, many, many times a day. Why are we thinking about that? How did that come up? What has that subject got to do with us now? Nothing. See, if you do this and you start sorting it all out, after a while, you'll gain a confidence that you've never had before, I assure you. Wouldn't you say?
Would say, and not only say, many people are living out what it is that we're talking about. And I like that you said, you start questioning if your thoughts are not taking you in the direction that you want to go. You're like, why am I thinking that? Why am I giving attention to that? That's not doing what it is that I need for it to do. And once we start questioning, see, many of us, as Mr. Lindell will often say, we're on autopilot. So we think because we thought a thought that we have to own that thought. No, sometimes if a thought is not taking you in the direction in which you want to go, you need to challenge it. Would you agree?
Right. If you went to the library and you went down the rows of the books to find a book you wanted, you don't just take out any book. You find a book that you want. Well, it's the same thing with your thoughts. You see, because we have thousands and thousands and thousands of thoughts every day passing through, but the ones that get your attention, you give life to. Are they lovely and of good report? See, that's all you have to check up on, because we're always being delivered into our own iniquities. You understand? In other words, our own thoughts. And if they're good, fantastic. Expand on them. But if it's not, and you're not enjoying life, then you've taken the wrong track. Just stop for a moment and think, what am I thinking about? Because as I think, I will experience, and I have been experiencing what I have thought prior. Isn't that the case?
It's true. It's true. And as we continue to be mindful of that, that's where the power comes in. You often will say, do a thing and you shall have the power to accomplish that thing. Would you agree?
Yes, and understand, it says the power. This is not a little power or some power. This is the power. And I know I say that over and over, but that's what it is. And that's what you want to focus on. Look, we can give you a lot of theological jargon if you want, but that does not bring your attention to focus on what you really desire. And that's what this is about. Change your mind, change your world. And the first does the second. So you're not given any work to do on making it so, except choosing it so, and you're given choose this day. So if you're choosing properly, you're enjoying life. If you're choosing improperly, well, I think you already know what that is, don't you think?
Hell on earth. It truly is hell on earth. And a lot of people are living that out. And they may not call it hell. They may call it distress. They may call it, this life that I'm living, I'm not happy with it. The circumstances, what's going on in the world. And it truly becomes a hell on earth.
Yes, actually, if you took a survey of the whole world, you'd say, I'll bet you 90% of them would say that it sure feels like hell. And the reason is that as you think, you are. And that's it, right there. Your own feeling is the secret. Feeling is the secret. What do you feel about your life and in general? That's where you're at. And you can always change your mind, change your world. It's a given. God gave it to you right off. Every child born of a woman gets that. Choose this day. But you're being raised, and in being raised, you get conditioned, programmed, hypnotized, mesmerized by many different people to their ideas, and their ideas may not fit your lifestyle. And I hope you've chosen yours and not just gotten it willy-nilly. Wouldn't say.
I would say, and that's the thing. And so you often say it, and I want to repeat it. We're not telling you what to think, what to practice, what to do, what to be, but we're saying as you think, as you practice, as you do, as you be, so is your world. Would you agree?
That's it. And it doesn't say that you have to be religious. You don't have to be a Christian or a Jew or whatever. It's as you think you are. It's as simple as that. And if you keep it simple, you remember to check on yourself. And that's what you have to do, because you start feeding things, and if they're negative ideas, they'll stick with you like glue. Something just came to mind when I said that. But that's what it is, isn't it?
It is. It is. And I want to go back to you saying, as you think you are. The R is the doing, the being, the having. So your thinking will always match what you're doing. Would you agree?
Absolutely. Absolutely, because that's the whole thing. It tells you very plainly, as you think you are. What are you experiencing? That's what you've been thinking. And if you'll change your thinking, you'll change your experiencing. That's all this is about, isn't it?
It is, absolutely.
So if the people are interested in knowing first person, they have to ask themselves the correct questions. And are we not told that the unexamined life isn't worth living? Wouldn't that be hell on earth? So all we're telling you is just look at yourself thoroughly, and then do what you need to do to correct it. And that's just think differently. That's all there is to it, isn't it?
It is. And truly, it goes back to one of Neville's quotes. He says, often people will say what it is that they believe, but they manifest a different lifestyle. He says, but I can truly know what it is that you believe by your lifestyle.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's it. That's it. I mean, let's face it. If as you think you are, it doesn't say, there's no parameters on that. As you think you are. It doesn't say you have to be a Christian or religious or whatever. It's man. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. Every man, every child born of woman. And I know we seem like we're driving a point, but this is so important to understand that it is you yourself who is either your enemy or your friend. Isn't that it?
It is it. And because this is such an important topic, because Mr. Lindell and myself have received questions during private interviews pertaining to thinking, people are frustrated. But they're frustrated because they don't understand truly, even though we repeat it week after week, as you think you are, and what they're living out is previous thought patterns. We know that it's important to drive this point home. Would you agree?
Yes, that's it. It's a repeat, because that's how you learn. I mean, like I have said before, when you were in school, how did you learn your lessons? Repetition, hear it over and over and over. And that's what you do. You're reprogramming yourself. You can't just say, oh, I won't do that no more, period. Well, no, it doesn't work that way. You have to work on the program to program your mind, your mindsets, because your mindsets operate automatically. And if you make a mindset for something, every time a situation comes up in a conversation or whatever, it acts automatically. You have no say over it. But you do have a say if you'll take a stand to say the say. And so people say, well, that's easier said than done. And absolutely it is. And thank God it is easier said than done, because that's what we were given to do, to say our say. And as a matter of fact, you are saying your say, and your world of experiencing is the result of what you're saying with your say. We want to keep it that simple. Keep it that simple, because you'll probably remember it. Because if you don't remember it, you don't do it, right?
That's true. That's true. And the truth of the matter is, the easier said than done. The done is what we're saying. Whether we understand that that's what we're saying, we're doing what it is that we believe. So if I say that I want to be prosperous, for example, then I begin thinking from a prosperity mindset, but then I also begin living a prosperity lifestyle. Would you agree?
That's it. You have, in other words, that's everybody's problem. They know what to do, they just don't follow through with it. I mean, I know you've heard it enough over and over and over in different ways, different experiences, but it's always up to you. How are you thinking and feeling? Not what's going on in your environment or other people's ideas, but you. See, that's what people leave out of their life. They leave themselves out of the life. They're always busy with what's outside around them, the environment, other people, and you don't take time for yourself to see what it is you're thinking feelingly about, because that is what's going to be your world of experiencing in your future, isn't it?
It is. And I want to bring, you brought a very good point up. You said, how are you thinking? And I only bring that up because there was a young lady recently, and she said that she was done with the teachings of Neville because it was so rigid. And I told her, I said, in part, you're correct. This is not about Neville's journey. This is about your journey. And ultimately, the individual, even in listening to all the teachings of Neville, you have to discover what works for you. Would you agree?
That's it. That's it. You are the only begotten. There's not another one in the whole world just like you. So you are an only begotten. And he has given you the power, just as Jesus had the power. But he claimed that he of himself could do nothing. It was the Father within him who does all the work. And what does God tell you? I'm with you always. I will never leave you. Omnipresence. What more do you need to know to operate the law of benefits beyond anything you can imagine at the moment, I assure you? Wouldn't you say?
I would. And I love that you brought it back home. You told them, you said, you are the only begotten. This is your story. You can only be the author of your story, not somebody else's story, your story. Would you agree?
That's it. But you see, the thing of it is you have to realize that as you're impressed, you will express. So if other people are impressing you with their ideas, and even if you don't agree with them, if you don't drop them, well, they'll carry on because they have your attention. And what has your attention has your life. It's really that simple, and I try to keep it that simple because then you can monitor what you're doing day in and day out. What are you thinking about generally? What is your attitude about life in general? And examine these things. Sit in the silence. Be still and know that I'm God. With you always, will never leave you. That's the story, isn't it?
That's the story. And I like that you brought up the point that as you impress upon your mind, you'll express in your life. We don't get it. We hear it, but we look at our lives and we say, well, this is certainly not what I've impressed upon my mind. If we're living it, we've created it.
Look, I for years, I would say, oh, I know that. Oh, yes, I know that. But I didn't know that. I only knew about that. And there is an entering in to know from. And that's what you want to be thinking from. Because what you're thinking from is what you're building your belief on. And if you're building your belief on a negative, then it only grows bigger and you grow scared. So what are you thinking about? What are you feeling after? Because that's what you're going to find. Whatever you're thinking feelingly about, that's what you're going to wind up experiencing. It isn't falling into the past. I thought, well, I said that a week ago. But it isn't falling into the past, and subconscious mind never forgets. It always makes your world in an exact duplicate of what you think feelingly about yourself. And that's the one you want to check out, self, because it's self experiencing this world of experience. But choose it. Isn't that the way it works?
That's exactly the way it works. You made me think in the talking about the choosing in the self and self. Edison used to reverse engineer. For example, he would look at music and he says, if making this kind of sound could produce music, then music can produce this kind of sound if it was reverse engineered. So what am I saying? If you look at your life, any of us look at our lives and we say, well, I'm not happy with my current situation, then we can begin to reverse engineer and know that if we change our thinking, the outward will also follow. Would you agree?
Yes, that's it. That's it. Understand the freedom. You don't have to go belong to something. You don't have to go find teachers or something. You hear the message, and then you go and you put the message in operation because you have the power. The power. You have that already. It's a given. Use it wisely. That's really the message, isn't it?
That is the message. And I like that you also included put the message into operation, the doing, so we have to understand we are the doers doing. We're the operant in power. Would you agree?
That's right. That's right. And you're given what to do. And you're told to think only on things that are lovely and of good report. Now, is that really that hard? I mean, are you really that tangled up in the world that you can't sit down quietly and think on things that are lovely and of good report and get in the habit of thinking of it often? Because that's what you'll be experiencing if you'll do so. Now, you want to know how to change your mind, change your world, there it is. And you can do so. And if you couldn't do so, how could you be blamed for doing it wrong if you couldn't do it right? And you can. It is a doable. That's what I'm here to witness to. I'm not here as an example. I'm here as a witness that you can change your mind, change your world. Isn't that so?
It is so. It is so. And forgive us if we seem to repeat the message, but we truly want you to get that this is doable. And understand when you're doing it, because what you're trying to manifest doesn't seem like it's happening like instantaneously. Don't think that it's not working. It didn't happen instantaneously to get your life where it is at the current moment. Would you agree?
What did it say? It said, "Seek ye first the kingdom of God, and then all things will be added on to you." Is that simple enough?
It is.
I mean, you're told that's the first thing you're to do, is to seek the kingdom of God. And then all things would be added onto you. So there's a recipe right there. But you have to run that over and over and over in your mind until it actually creates a space to work from. It's not just a fleeting thought that a minute later something happens and you forgot it. See, it's opening and quickening. It's going to the end. It's being what you say you feel that you are. Be it. What you're thinking about is you thinking about it, and that's your world of experiencing. And understand, if you're complaining, that's only going to get you more to complain about. And I know that for sure. I learned that lesson the hard way. What you're complaining about, you're building. You have confidence in building it. But you don't want confidence in building a negative. You want confidence in building a positive life. And it is offered to you. And there's so many more things offered to you. Absolutely free. If you'll only, do what you're told to do. Sit in the silence and feel after him. That's you. Doing, being, having.